What's up, everybody? It's Lewis and I just want to say what's up to Without Parole Games, Jeremy, Brian, Michelle, and Dez. And to the Game Cats, this is your viewer takeover.
This is Viewer Takeover. We film every Monday night. We bring it to YouTube every Tuesday. And we talk about a whole lot of stuff and thank a whole lot of people. But the first thing we want to do is introduce ourselves. My name is Brian Paul from this channel right here, PSVR Without Parole. And to my right, the boys, Dave from Daystation, but VR.
Hello. Strap in, guys. This is going to be quite a roller coaster of an episode.
The far right-hand side of the screen is AJ from The Underground, PSVR. Underground.
Nice to meet you, sir. Good to meet you.
Oh, nice to meet you as well. And nice to meet you, Mr. Brian Paul and Game Cats.
Guys, we want to thank a couple people while we get the show started here. And the first person we want to thank is Lewis Knight for that awesome viewer takeover introduction. That is definitely a retro intro and from years ago. I mean, 3-4 years ago. We know and love Lewis Knight, don't we?
Yeah, he never stopped being a great guy.
Fucking love that dude.
Yeah, great dude. And
He's
it's great
so
to see
awkward.
one from the archives, the ancient depths of the Without Parole.
He's so awkward, man. It's so funny because when you talk to him during a game or when you watch his live streams on his channel, he's so chill and relaxed and just has it all together. And in this, he's like deer in headlights. And I just, it's adorable. Listen, we keep using these retro intros because we got no more in the queue. So make sure you send your short, sweet, seductive, possibly southern introduction to withoutparole@gmail.com. And if you're lucky or unlucky, we'll watch it, make fun of you, and use it on next week's show. We also want to thank these people down here, the illustrious, fluffiest of the fluffy game cats who went to patreon.com/withoutparole.
Games.
And they're giving us $1 or more every single month because they love us almost as much as we love them. We thank you so very much for it. We can't run the channel without you. Thank you. But AJ, we want to thank one more group of people. And who is that?
Brian, Dave, Game Cats. We would like to thank those who support us in another way by changing their name to something Game Cat, something Game Cat related, something Game Cat adjacent, as you and something Game Cat adjacent would like to say. And this week, we have 2 new Game Cats to welcome to the Game Cat Dojo. Starting with, I can only assume who this is, but let's just guess here. Family-friendly, non-bannable #GameCat name. That's got to be
right in the
Hotcakes.
title right there. You can't ban this guy. He's
Totally
going to be around forever.
Hotcakes. Yep. Thank you, Hotcakes, for your continued dedication. It can't be easy to come up with new names every single week. Who else do we have this week, AJ?
We've also got a special one, and that is, we're not saying that you're not special, Hotcakes. He's been keeping it alive.
He changes his name every
He's
week.
been keeping it alive for like 2 years now. But
He's
we've
the
got
most special of them all.
Razor Bikini, the Game Cat Sprint Victor.
Oh, wow.
The brand new
Sprinter.
Sprint Gato Diablo. He's our game cat from one of our game cats from down under. We have many that we know and love, and he won the Sprint Vector tournament that was yesterday. So congratulations! You will get your prize and in the form of a PSN card, and you will also get the new title taken from, might I say, the very first winner of the very first Game Cat Cup tournament, Diz. The original Sprint Gato Diablo now I expect Diz to crown you.
And if you're wondering about this whole Sprint Vector tournament thing, being like, why don't you guys talk about it? Because we're really bad at promoting it on the channel. Make sure you join our Discord. The link is in the description. That's where all these discussions happen. It's tough to promote a tournament when only a few people really care about it. So I don't want to waste 70,000 people's time talking about a tournament that only 30 people are interested in participating in. So join the Discord. We talk about it constantly there. And also you can leave your viewer takeover questions there, which is a way to get them on the show. As well as, sorry Dave, I took this from you, leaving #viewer takeover under any of our videos, in the comments of any videos, all one word, #viewer takeover. We'll find it, we'll search for it, and possibly use it on next week's show. First question comes to us this week from Billy Pod, the Game Cat, on the Walking Dead Onslaught live stream. All of the questions came from a very recent stream I just did of the Walking Dead Onslaught. He writes, after watching all the trailers and your developer interview with Survios, I was totally sold on the Walking Dead Onslaught. But seeing your live stream today was almost shocking. I'd love to hear you, Dave, and AJ talk more about Onslaught, what you think went wrong, if the game is worth buying in its current state, and if there's anything Survios can do to save this one. Thank you for your honesty. viewer takeover.
That is a big one, and that's going to set the tone, I think, for the entire episode here, because they're all from the Walking Dead Onslaught live stream, top to bottom. All we're talking about is Walking Dead today. So I think AJ, I'm kind of well. Hold on. Did we decide we were going to start with the
positive? Locked and ready, man. No, I will go.
No, we can't let AJ go first. No.
You don't want me to go first? No, then okay. You go first.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
He says, I'd love to hear, what do you think went wrong? I think a lot went wrong. So basically this game was supposed to come out as like an arcade hack and slash kind of Walking Dead experience thing. Originally was supposed to have co-op, and then that was taken out. And I think that was the first thing that went wrong. But really you can just, let me start from the beginning. The basic fundamentals, guys, Brian, Dave, when you talk about killing zombies, what is the one method that you use to kill a zombie?
Right in the head. You shoot him right in the head.
Shoot him right in the head, right? You destroy the brain, and that kills the zombies. And that is, of all things, I have a long list. I have a long list of stuff.
You prepared.
Two of these,
a shorter list than I expected. Actually,
two of these are there's more. That's just what I have written down.
That's the top of the pile.
Yeah. But and just from a fundamental like zombie walker standpoint, you destroy the brain and they die. And in this game, you have knives and you have guns. You have melee weapons and you have like guns and stuff. And it takes 3 headshots with a gun to kill them, minimum.
Yeah.
And then like one little knife to the head, and
like the first weapon. The first weapon you have, the one that they just give you automatically. Here's the very first knife. It's more effective than even an upgraded pistol.
And mind you, when you stab them in the head, I'm going to kick it over to you guys, but just when you stab them in the head, it doesn't feel good. If you try to like thrust, it's wonky, like the tracking is off, the physics are off. And so you end up basically being the best way to play this game is to walk up and just lightly go like this and just flick your wrist. Yeah, you give them a bonk bonk like Dave says, and their arm falls off. But if you stab them in the head, like there's also no vibration. So there's like no feeling, there's no weight, no physics or anything to it. And that right out the gate is like my first big complaint about it.
Yeah, I mean, when you pick up a gun and you realize for the first time, wait a second, what happened there? How come I shot him in the head? I know it. There was blood. He went like this.
Yeah.
He's still walking at me. You take a second shot and you're like, surely he'll be dead. And then he's still walking at you. And if you're lucky, on normal mode, the third shot will take him down. And you're just like, wait a second here. Why would I use this gun? Like, why would I use this gun at all? And that keeps happening over and over again. You'll get an upgraded, like, an assault rifle. That sounds awesome. It still takes a lot of bullets with an assault rifle directly into a dude's brain. And it just doesn't, it's not satisfying.
And when you
really
factor
just have to eat through ammo. They're like bullet sponges, but they're not knife sponges.
Bullet sponge zombies.
Right.
Yeah, you just go bonk with the knife, or like as you get further in the game, the battle axe, you don't have to do anything. If you hold the battle axe two-handed, you can just like walk into a zombie and their head explodes.
Well, no, not even. If you hit them, if you chop off their leg, they die. You can shoot them in the head 3 times and they live, but you chop off their leg and they die?
Well,
like, what is this? What game is this?
So one of the issues I have is that they keep further removing any reason to use a weapon because you have to reload frequently, and so and very frequently you have to use 2 hands to steady your weapon. And so if I'm going to have to worry about all that and make moving around and aiming more cumbersome, then I'm obviously going to use the machete at all times, or any knife that I've got. And so I think that was definitely a mistake. For whatever reason that it happened, it was definitely a mistake. I think I kind of want to move on to the way this looks a little bit, because I know graphics aren't everything. Yeah. And I think at a cursory glance, you could look at this and go, wow, there's a lot going on here. There's definitely, it's a dark kind of like brown and black world where it's just kind of dull and gray, which is fine for a zombie apocalypse as far as I'm concerned. But it is, I feel like there's just an entire absence of lighting altogether. Like there's no contrast in the world. You're never you're never walking around really at like a super dark night. There's no flashlight in the game, and I think all of this kind of plays into the fact that they weren't able to implement a lighting system because they're having all these walkers on the screen at a time, and I think that was a concession that they had to make at some point. It just looks kind of dull.
The unfortunate thing is that they didn't even get anything good out of that concession, because putting 20 walkers on the screen in this game at once might seem like a thing you have to do. But this game has this way of being like, oh, there's a gate, and if you blow it up, there's just a horde, like a giant horde of zombies going to come after you, right? And that's supposed to be scary. In front of you, you see 20 zombies. But they move so slowly, and they don't attack in any sort of pattern, and you can just sit there and literally like pick them off until they're all dead, and the music's still pumping like there's danger. Like, you got to get out of there. You got to get the hell out of here. It's too dangerous in there.
Everything's fine. I'm just hanging out back here.
Casually kill every one of them one by one. And like, that's to me one of the biggest failings, because even if you can put a bunch of zombies on screen, if that's not a threat, what's the point?
Graphically, I was not very impressed, honestly, when I first jumped in this game. The graphics did kind of grow on me a little bit, because I appreciate the realism that it goes for, and I did actually really like the look of the walkers in this, how they have, like, you know, they look like how they are on the TV show. But really, when I first jumped into this and I was looking around, I like the trees and stuff, and like just the overall like kind of sepia tone that it has and stuff. Maybe that has something to do with the lighting. It just feels really brown. Like everything looks kind of brown or kind of red hue. And I wasn't crazy about that. Now, that's not the worst thing, because that does resemble some of the show, but graphically, I like what they were going for, but I just didn't really like the execution as much, and especially like the cars. Like, the cars look like no cars I've ever seen in my life.
I was telling AJ they look like, if you guys ever played Initial D in the arcades back in the day, there's just like a bunch of like really boxy looking like old Hondas and stuff, and they're all pretty much the same color, but like they have basically no detail on them, and they're just sort of like really big boxy things, and they're just there to block the path,
right,
to artificially extend the playtime, which we'll get to at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, the level design itself, man, is very not only linear, but everything. It feels like when you're playing in a town, it feels like a town that's like folded on itself just to create like a path to walk down. And that was one of my other things, is like the interactivity of this game. There's none. There's picking up items and there's attacking stuff, but it's basically just getting from point A to point B. But stuff like a cardboard box should not halt me from, like, I should be able to just push through a cardboard box, guys.
Yeah, guys, getting back to the graphics a little bit. I think this plays into quite a bit of the game. Is like there's literally no tension at all, and I would have loved to seen a supply run that was at midnight, right? Like everything's totally in the dark, and your flashlight is pretty much the only light that you see, and that, or even one of Daryl's campaign missions, just to give the look of the game a little more variety.
There was one short level where you're
not what I'm talking about,
and that was like my favorite level.
But it's still not enough. It's like there was no horror element to this. You know, when I don't care if you're trying to make an arcade game or if you're trying to make a survival game. It doesn't matter. If you're making a zombie game or a walker game, I'm sure a million people have already been like, "Oh, does it cringeworthy? Can't believe they're saying zombies instead of walkers." Yeah, we know. Trust me. But we're talking about all zombie games. In Arizona Sunshine, that second area with the mine shaft or whatever it is that you're underground, it kind of took this like kind of typical zombie shooter that actually does take place all in daytime and give you this really, really sense of terror and dread when you're like constantly looking over your shoulder, hearing noises. And I needed something like that in this, and it would have done wonders for the survival mode. I keep saying survival mode when I mean supply drop mode.
Supply run?
Supply run. So when you're going through one of those, to be in the dark and just having your flashlight and just running around like that, I feel like it would have added so much to have a couple of the levels be like that, and same with Daryl's story.
I didn't need it to be scary or have any stuff like that for that reason, just for the sake of variety. I was so happy to get to that level just because it was something different looking. Like I said, all the rest were kind of the brown and red kind of tones. And yeah, I wanted, just for the sake of having a night level, because it was something that looked different, as what I wanted. The missions, man, the missions themselves. it's all going A to B. The story.
Well, no. It's going A to B, but then he says, "Oh, the way's blocked. I gotta find another way around."
Yes.
And then every
level
mission,
starts that way.
You're like, "I gotta find another way." And there's like a flashing door to your left that's
Yeah.
maybe that's the other way around.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every level starts off like that. Oh, a wall. And then it's like, where am I? It's like, yeah, find a way around. And there's a flashing door literally to the right. I mean, just didn't make you think at all. And like, I'm okay with sometimes being a mindless shooter. Like you said, Arizona Sunshine to me is like a mindless shooter. But even that, I felt like I was doing something for like a reason. And this, I didn't feel like I was doing anything for any reason during the story here.
Yeah. It was just plow ahead into the end of the level, and that was really it. I could have gone for. There was like one point in a warehouse where it's like, "Oh, I'm looking for a lever." I was like, "There's the lever. Okay, bring the lever back to the thing that needs the lever." It's like, but we needed like 100 more of those things. We need to find keys. We need to give me a reason to have to search through the environment and put myself in danger. And having no sense of danger, never feeling like I was in any danger, really just kind of ruined the campaign, especially. But
yeah. And also, like, there are just some weird decisions. Like, I just played that mission you're talking about where you find the lever, and I have the lever with me. I'm looking at where the lever is supposed to go, but there's still some zombies over there in the warehouse, and they're like, "Nope, guess you can't use the lever yet." And then I had to just, like, keep killing zombies for a few minutes, and then it was like, "Okay, you can use it." What the fuck was that about? Why wouldn't I leave before all of those guys, like, to save my ass?
Nothing makes sense.
It's clunky. It's clunky.
yeah.
One of the missions was literally just opening a gate, and it's like that's usually like the first objective of like this is a chapter. They call it chapters, and this didn't feel like chapters to me. This felt like they took like one mission from a chapter and then like split it up by forcing you to do the supply drops in between, and it was really, to me, it just felt like padding. Like it didn't feel like it had purpose or anything.
Well, when you talk about purpose, like if you break this down and just think about it for a minute, it actually makes no fucking sense. So here's the concept of the game, right? You are Daryl telling Rick the story of what already happened when you were out there somewhere.
Right.
But for some reason, the game's like, no, it looks like you need to, in real time right now, go recruit more villagers in order for us to let you see that. And it's like, it already happened. Those people weren't even here when it happened. Why do they need to be here when it happens? Let me play the goddamn campaign. But it won't. What it does is it artificially extends the length by injecting these segments where it's like, well, you got to go get 3 more villagers. How are you going to do that? You're going to have to go out there and do like 2 or 3 supply runs, my friend. Sorry.
Well,
and then you get back to the mission. It just breaks it up in a way that's not very satisfying.
In all fairness, the campaign is boring as hell. And I was so happy to get those breaks, to be like, oh, thank God I finished another chapter. Now I can go to the thing that I actually do enjoy, because I did enjoy the supply runs.
Okay.
And
fair.
so
Yeah.
I thought the supply runs were okay designed. You guys both told me, you were like, this is where kind of like the fun in the game was. And I actually, I don't know, like I liked it. Like when I got to like the second or third supply run, I'm like, okay, this is starting to feel a little bit different. They're starting to do something different here. But then they make you do it so many times. And then like the later supply runs are the same early levels, just split in half and then like rearranged.
Yeah, he's right. They just reuse shit. And the thing is, we shouldn't be saying this mode is the best part of the game, because first of all, it's not even that great. And second of all, once you start to see, well, there's a third of all too. Second of all, you start to see the patterns here where, like AJ said, they're reusing stuff, but just like the core mechanics of like, oh, well, it's a race against the clock. So in order to enable that, we made every single building a maddening labyrinth of fucking cardboard boxes and shopping carts. And you can't just walk into a building and loot it. You got to go this way. Oh, that's blocked. Okay, I'm going to go around. Oh, that's blocked. Okay, let me go out the back door.
By a box.
You got to go back through all the whole thing that was blocked and get back through in time.
Right.
And that's what introduces the tension. But it's not a great design decision. It's just
because what's chasing you, and what's chasing you guys in the supply
red
mode.
Wall, and if you walk into the wall, it's like the Fortnite thing. If you go outside the circle in Fortnite, where you just constantly lose some energy, but you don't die and you can get ahead of it. And there are
like
no physical
sprites.
zombies in it.
Yeah,
There's
it's
no-
like it's
it's
flat
like a mix.
shadows. It's a red wall with flat zombie shadows. Granted, the one of the things I did like about this game was the sound design. Like I liked how the sounds of the herd was getting closer and closer, and that's kind of like how it indicated. I thought the sound design overall was actually really good in this game. And that's one thing that's been bothering me.
I agree with you, except for the fact that if there's so many times there's been a walker right behind me, grabs me, and I'm like, there was zero audio indication. The 3D sound design is absolutely garbage in my opinion, if it even exists. You know, hearing the herd coming from a distance, I get that, but not hearing the one that's right behind you until he's already got you, and the only reason I even know he's got me is because there's an icon on the screen. No thank you.
And you can't move.
Yeah, no thank you.
That's a good segue into the base building. You're supposed to be building up Alexandria. And you think that this is going to be some town that you can make, and at first I thought it was like some Walking Dead tycoon thing that I was doing. I'm like, am I building like a theme park or something? But no, this actually just ends up being your stats upgrade system.
That's it.
That's it. Your health, increase your ammo and stuff, and yeah.
It would have been great if they made this like a Dark Cloud thing where it's like, you could like put the buildings down where you want. And then once the buildings are down there, you get to go and interact with people at those buildings. And then they can give you the next missions, that kind of stuff. But yeah,
that's what I was expecting and hoping for. And I feel like maybe if from the beginning they had focused on that kind of stuff and not originally come out of the gate saying this is a 4-player multiplayer game, if they had picked their lane and stuck in it, at some point I think we'd have a better game.
You can't even walk over there.
Right. Yeah, no, that's the thing. There's a fence in front of you. And so literally the only satisfaction you get from upgrading or building a place in town is that the screen goes to black and then it fades back in and you hear somebody banging on a hammer and then there's a building in front of you. And it's like you can't go into it. You can't talk to the lady who works there. You can't do anything. Like Brian said, like getting a mission from somebody you rescued on a previous supply run, now that you've built their clinic that they work at, would be such a cool thing, and that's what I was looking forward to.
And there is bulletin
nothing
boards
at all.
On the bulletin board, there's letters that are like, this is, like, thank you for rescuing me, here's some supplies. And it's just like, oh wow, does that feel tacked on?
Great. Yeah, no, it's very tacked on. The whole thing feels tacked on.
Guys, I hate to move this along, but we need to move to the next question to kind of to talk a little bit more about this. Dave, whose next question come to us from?
This comes from Zambigam. Almost a zombie name. Zambi Games. And this is also from the Walking Dead Onslaught live stream that you did earlier today. He says, I'm not going to lie. I feel like you're kind of being overly critical. You aren't even playing the hardest game mode, and you keep mentioning Saints and Sinners like this is a direct competitor instead of judging it on its own. So that's not really a question, but he's just accusing us essentially of us being too critical.
Can I, before we jump into it, I do want to say I played 500 PSVR games, and I go into each one optimistic and hopeful and look and try to judge them by their own merit. We talked a lot about, is Onslaught going to be as good as Saints and Sinners? And I think we all sort of said a long time ago, there's no way it's going to be as good, and only because Saints and Sinners was so good. Not that Survios wasn't up to the task, because they're an amazing developer, but how can you get to this point where you have really something as good as Saints and Sinners? So we sort of went into it with lowered expectations, saying if we are going to compare these two games, then we already sort of know that Survios is at a disadvantage. And so I feel like I was very, very fair. And I try not to compare the two games, even though there's a lot to compare there.
I think the thing that we end up comparing this to more often, though, is like Arizona Sunshine.
Thank you.
Because that's the question that everyone's asking in the chat, and that's what we thought about too, which is like, this is clearly not Saints and Sinners.
Right.
This is not our top 5, top 10, top 3 new game. It's a game with zombies in it, and it's, got the characters from Walking Dead, but mechanically, you can't really talk about it in the same conversation. It's not the same kind of game at all.
No, you could really break this game down. I wanted to break this game down without even mentioning Saints and Sinners. And honestly, I don't even have to, because like you said, I find myself comparing this game more to Arizona Sunshine and Contagion because that is the style of it. It's not a survival game. It's more about just running around, and it's kind of like an arcade, like easy shooter. That being said,
not just the style, it's also the quality and the level of polish on this thing, because I think we've mentioned it's rough.
Yes,
it doesn't seem like So Survios has put out, I wouldn't say that they're like one of the best developers, but they're consistent. They will come out with games that everybody pretty much likes pretty much every time, but not games that are like, this is my favorite game. But like, this is a cool game. I like it. It's pretty well done.
They're
I
up
think
there,
that
man. They're very high up there.
They live in the 7 to 8 point range. That's where that's their bread and butter. Somewhere between 7 and 8 on a review scale. That's for me. That's where Survios lives. This game is the first one really to not hit that mark, and I'm surprised actually that it didn't. With this much riding on it, the name, the whole franchise, all these. You didn't get Rick, but you got Daryl in the game. That's big for people. People love that actor, Norman Reedus, and so people are stoked. But at the same time, it's just not in the same ballpark quality wise as their previous games. Not comparing to Saints and Sinners, their own previous games. It's not as good as.
They usually at least have. Yeah, they usually at least have like this amazing gameplay, and they usually are really polished. But yeah, even like stuff that didn't have depth, like Battle Wake. But Sprint Vector is like one of my favorite games ever. Raw Data is an amazing game. When it functions right. And like overall, like I've really liked Survios history, and I really thought by this time they would be like this juggernaut in VR, and I'm really worried at this point. I am very, very worried because this is, it's kind of been trending down for me a little bit. And now I'm like hitting the red alert button because I feel like this isn't even the same team that designed those previous games because it's so drastically different. And I hate to say this. I mean, look, I'm definitely being critical here because and these guys might be a little bit less critical than me, but I really have like major issues with this game. And the difficulty is absolutely like way too easy. And I did try it on veteran as well.
Yeah, I played it on veteran during my live stream, so it's totally unfair for him to say that I didn't play on the hardest game mode. I played on veteran for most of the stream.
Sorry you weren't paying attention. Stream earlier tonight, the whole hour and whatever was like all veteran. I only played veteran,
and there's almost no difference.
The only thing that happened was sometimes it took 4 headshots to kill a zombie, which is fucking obnoxious. And then there were just more of them. And I will say I died once because I was being lazy and not paying attention and talking.
But then you took out the knife.
That's the thing. Like I was just trying to do headshots, and I was like, that's taking too long. Let's just do that. Okay, that worked. Yeah.
But the gameplay balancing is. Oof.
But to say you're not supposed to compare this to Saints and Sinners, first of all, they're both Walking Dead games. They both came out in VR. They both came out this year, right? I mean, we're talking about 2 games that came out very close to each other, and that they're both Walking Dead games. They're both taking place in this zombie walker universe. And so
nobody would ever tell you, don't compare the comic book of Walking Dead to the TV show. That's not fair. What do you mean?
Right.
That's what it's based on, dude.
But the other thing is that you can tell that they tried to implement mechanics from Saints and Sinners into this game. They were like, oh man, there's like doing these supply runs and getting supplies and scavenging these towns became, I guarantee you, was not an original part of this game, right? It was they focused so heavily on something that Saints and Sinners did so well. I think they were like, well, we need to get this in our game. What else can we get in our game? You need to be able to grab the walkers and stab them. That was in Saints and Sinners. Let's get that in our game. And it feels like, dude, this is made by some other team. Exactly. Where they were like, we can do that. Yeah. Right? So it's like, I think they lost their initial vision because they were like, we want to do what Saints and Sinners did.
I honestly barely see any similarities. The scavenging is about as close as it gets, especially when they say that this is supposed to be a fun, lighthearted, like arcade game. When I think of an arcade game, I don't even see arcade mechanics here. Like, I don't
scavenging is not like an arcade.
Yeah, that's
walking around tables and being like, let me pick up some orange juice and a bottle of water. Like, that's not typical arcade excitement,
You literally run around, and besides like killing walkers, you are just clicking with the left hand and just picking stuff. That's like there's literally 2 mechanics in this game, which is killing walkers and picking up supplies, and you don't have like an inventory that you manage or anything. There's no high score for anything. I don't know where this whole arcade thing comes from, but I don't know about you guys, but I find it I obviously, Brian said what he said, but I find it really hard to compare this to Saints and Sinners because it just seems like completely different to me.
Yeah, oh, it's very different, but I do
Yeah.
feel like they were trying to add Saints and Sinners elements, and that's just what I'm trying to get at there. I don't think they were successful at doing so. We just want to address a couple of his comments there. We should move on to the last question. Who's
Final one comes from XG Gaber 7 from the Walking Dead Onslaught live stream. It says, "Would you recommend this as a VR stress ball like Gorn was?"
Nope, you're gonna need a Gorn after you play this game, because it's not very satisfying in that kind of gameplay mechanic. Like, it's not cool to just go around beating up guys because it feels so easy that there's no stakes in it, and it's also not so like they showed off all this
No
stuff where it was
physics.
like, well, the physics are very minimal, but they showed all this stuff off pre-launch, and we haven't talked about this yet, and this is huge. They showed all these interesting mechanics where, like, if I've got a machete and a walker's coming at me, I can slice off this part of his head,
Yeah.
and it falls off, and I can see the brains inside, and I can cut his guts out and shit. That's not in the game at all, not even a smidgen. You can knock a guy's arm off, you can knock his head off, you can knock his legs off, which kills him for some fucking reason. But, like, it doesn't feel satisfying from a melee combat perspective. It's just that melee is the easiest way, and you don't have to bother with another way if you don't want to.
Yeah.
So it becomes the path of least resistance to play with melee. But that's not because the melee itself is inherently satisfying. Like, I don't even love Gorn, but hitting guys in Gorn is way more fun than hitting guys in
Right.
Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And there's just a litany of these dumbasses walking up to you, bam, okay, next guy, bam. Like, it's just tiresome after a certain point. Whereas the stress ball kind of games, you get this release out of you. You're like, yeah, I really fucking bashed the hell. Oh, that was so cool. What a cool new weapon I got. The weapons aren't even that cool.
They don't really
Satisfying.
emphasize on the gore here. Like it was touted as like, you know, these like really intricate, really detailed like
Yeah.
things, and like you can do them. Like I've punched a hole in somebody and like took out a chunk of their leg with a crowbar, but it was like it's so not designed for it. It feels like it doesn't feel like a core thing. It feels like something you have to go out of your way
Yes.
to kind of
Yes.
do.
And it's like,
yeah,
why would I spend my time fucking around knocking part of their kneecap off? Which,
Right.
if you even notice, you're lucky that you noticed that the graphic changed, if it happened to.
it's hard to
Which-
tell. It's not like
Yeah.
their intestines spill out or you slice them in half and they start crawling after you. It's not stuff like that.
The one that I saw most often, I think, was if you shoot a guy in the face, like the bottom of his jaw will drop away sometimes, and he's just got like a, caved out bottom
It's so hard to
part.
notice.
But it's you barely notice, and if you're doing things right, he's dead in half a second anyways, and you
Right.
don't even pay attention to him.
Yep.
So yeah.
I do
Right.
think that this is going to have an audience. This is going to have an audience, and I think it's the people who are already defending the game before they've played it. I think that's the audience. The people who are just like, I need a new Walker game. I need a new zombie game. These are people who were like, hey man, Contagion's not that bad. And I was like, okay, you know what? And I actually think this is better than Contagion. I actually found some enjoyment out of
Yeah, me too.
out of going on these supply runs, out of collecting all this stuff, coming back, even though upgrading the town or your skill tree, whatever you want to call it, isn't really necessary because you're already too powerful in the game to begin with, it's still, for me, it checks off some of these boxes that I need in games, like progression. I've seen comments from people before that be like, I was talking about out of ammo and how out of ammo sucks because there's literally no progression, zero progression at all. You finish a level, you don't even know that you finished it. Nothing has happened. You didn't unlock the next level. You didn't upgrade a skill. You didn't upgrade an attribute. Nothing. And I need that kind of stuff in games, and that's why that was a big thing for me in Swordsman, where after going through like 5 or 6 fights, I'd come back and I was so excited to upgrade my skills and see what happened, like how I reacted in combat after that. And in this, there was enough to upgrade my weapons and enough to upgrade my town, my skill tree, where I was like, okay, that felt satisfying. And now I want to keep doing the supply runs to do that and to keep opening more of the campaign so I can keep progressing through the story. And there's something that checks in my brain where I go, yeah, there's a little bit of an addiction that happens there, even if I know the game isn't very good. The same thing can be said for Deadlands, which was a $6 endless runner zombie shooter, right?
Somebody's going to bring up Deadlands in this discussion.
Right, $6, right? But I get the same level of satisfaction from Deadland, right? So it's like, so there are things, if you're like me and you like that kind of stuff, it's there. But man, this is really, really rough around the edges, and it's hard. And yeah, as a VR stress ball, no, that's not a box it checks for me. It doesn't feel like Gorn. It's not satisfying. You don't get to tear limbs off of zombies, walkers. Gotta keep doing it.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff would have made it way more of a fun VR stress ball.
Yeah, for that I would much rather recommend Gorn Swordsman, the Meat Grinder update for Saints and Sinners, or Sirento. Something that just feels good to play overall, feels satisfying.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the sense of progression here is kind of like you said. It's like I think we've said it's kind of tacked on though. Like it's unnecessary. You don't actually need any of that stuff.
Right.
But there's always part of your lizard brain and mine that's like, okay, well, I want to get it anyways.
I didn't upgrade
I want
anything.
to unlock all the weapons. I want to upgrade them. And so I did. Well, the funny thing is, post game, if you play a couple runs on veteran, you'll have more than you need to upgrade anything that you want. Like I just waltzed in on the stream and I was like, okay, I'll do a loadout with 4 weapons I didn't use last time that aren't fully upgraded, and I fully upgraded every single one of them.
Yeah.
And that just went out.
Yeah. The upgrade system. So even after saying all of that, the weapon upgrade system, again, because the machete is so powerful, or any knife is better than any weapon. A lot of the weapon upgrades don't feel satisfying to do. I want to upgrade them all, but I don't feel any better or any more powerful when I go out with that pistol that I just maxed out. The upgrades are kind of lame.
It gives you more. It gives you like more items and stuff. But this is the thing about that as well. First of all, like I did actually find the crossbow kind of satisfying to use.
It can be. Yeah,
like it felt kind of nice to use. But when you go on the supply runs and it has you choosing your characters, I was really thinking that like which character you want to choose and use their signature weapon, go out and do the supply runs. And it's like, no, none of that matters because you unlock that crossbow. You don't even unlock until like at least over the halfway point of the game. Like, so like you start out with like a knife and whatever. And then, you get the crossbow like at the halfway point in the game. And so you don't really get a lot of time to use it.
The most frustrating thing about that too is the whole game tells you, like in save screens, Rick's revolver is the most powerful weapon in the game.
I don't remember using it.
I'm like, where was it? Okay,
Yeah.
well, you find it in the very fucking end of the game when you're beating the game pretty much.
Yeah.
And so it still takes 2 headshots on veteran with that thing. And it's like, how powerful is this? It's a fucking revolver. I think I could blast the dude's head off. I don't know.
Yeah. This should have been, especially like near the end of the game where you're just taking on hordes and hordes of walkers. Man, there should have been a grenade launcher. Like, give me something that actually, like, right, that I can just like shoot right into the middle of a crowd. This would have made it a VR stress ball to be like one shot, poof, they all go flying. Right, just like that dynamite, which is so dumb, and like just like dynamite's like on sticks,
just sticking everywhere.
Go over and trigger. It doesn't make any sense for it to be there, even story wise.
The only explosives in this game, literally all they do is signal to you, hey, 1, there's about to be a bunch of zombies coming out from different walls that you don't see yet. And then 2, all you got to do is wait for them to get near the thing, and you shoot it once, and they all fucking blow up. It's like really unsatisfying because the game keeps telegraphing to you like, hey, there's an explosive here.
Yeah.
Do you know what that means? There's going to be zombies. And then they come and you use it, and it's just so tedious and unrewarding. If I had TNT that I could decide to chuck into a crowd of walkers at any time, that's a lot more satisfying.
Yeah.
And another way in which Saints and Sinners kind of nailed it. And this, in terms of nail bombs, if we're going to be on the nose,
no
and also
Molotov cocktails. Are you kidding me? In a game about zombies, no Molotov cocktails where they could all just be coming at you on fire. Right?
I don't think they could hold that off.
Immortal Legacy had Molotov cocktails.
Immortal Legacy is so much better than this game.
No, dude, I don't like Immortal Legacy. I would recommend Immortal Legacy over this game.
Yeah.
I honestly am not a huge fan of Arizona Sunshine, but this game made me like Arizona Sunshine. I have a newfound appreciation. I'm being completely serious. I know that sounds awful, but I am like totally serious that I have like a newfound appreciation for Arizona Sunshine because it just felt like more meaningful, and little things that, stuff like being able to punch locks in this, like you can't like you can punch locks open.
I had like a battle axe and I couldn't get the lock open, and then I punched it with my exist, and
So much easier. Yeah.
It just doesn't make like I'm all for suspending disbelief, but Jesus, man,
Right.
like there's just so much stuff that doesn't make sense in this game, and in at least in Arizona Sunshine, it's like there's all this stuff that is actually kind of epic, and there's co-op.
Right.
The thing that we can say about games like Arizona Sunshine that are clearly better than a game like this are that at least there's a sense of focus, and you know what they're trying to do. And even if there are shortcomings and it doesn't live up to that fully, those are things they can patch and fix, and they have over the years. Like, I actually like Arizona Sunshine now much better than I did at launch.
Oh, 100%.
They did fix things, and they made it better, and added content for very cheap. This game, I feel like, is pushed in so many directions and doesn't land any of them because of, I don't know, the development cycle, like something that happened while they were building this.
Yeah.
It's just in every element half-baked in its own way, and it comes together into this thing where, like, you can get some sort of general enjoyment out of it, I guess, for little satisfactions.
Right. And it's cheap.
But
It's like
a mess.
$30.
It's a mess. It's a mess. I think that's the main thing. And Arizona Sunshine, regardless of flaws, was not a mess top to bottom. This is just all over the place. I don't know what the fuck it wants to be. It doesn't succeed at being anything that it tried to be. And
There are little things in Onslaught that can be fixed, like how your hands are glowing and stuff, and it's so immersion breaking and annoying. But
There's
that's
an option
like
to turn it off that doesn't work. How ridiculous is that?
The subtitle
And things-
function doesn't work. They're permanently on when I turn them on.
Yeah, things like that can be fixed, in my opinion, but that's not going to save this game.
Well, so let's wrap this up because we're already 25 minutes over our time limit.
Oh, yeah.
Let's wrap it up by saying, can this game be fixed with patches?
Nope.
No,
You
can't. Yeah, you can't fix this game. It's fundamentally broken.
Okay. That's probably a good way to end. And guys, thank you.
AJ's box quote for the back.
Fundamentally broken.
They broke it.
Yeah.
Yes, we're underground.
Exactly. All right, guys, that was an interesting kind of review discussion. I'm not quite sure when this will air, but we'll make sure it airs sometime tomorrow when the technical review embargo lifts over there at Survios, even though the game's already been out in so many territories for a while now. Make sure you subscribe to Dave over at Dave Station VR. Make sure you subscribe to AJ over at PSVR Underground. Guys, definitely got to get out of here. I've got so much work to get caught up on. There's going to be tons of videos up on the channel over the next 2 days. My name's Brian Paul from PSVR Without Parole. This was Viewer Takeover, and we're out. Long periods of time.
That's a pretty good idea.
All right. You guys ready?
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. Let's do it.
Did you guys ever go to coffee houses where like people snapped instead of clapping?
No.
I
Nope.
did. God damn, we were pretentious.
That is pretty pretentious.
This is Viewer Takeover. We film every Monday night. I forget. Is it Monday night?
It is Monday. Yeah.
Hold on.
Monday.